Did you this morning think, oh, I'm late leaving the house? Well, if you pronounced it that way, then you're probably from Canada, and you may be among many, many thousands and thousands of Canadians who come here regularly. Well, as a matter of fact, my guest today, Robert Keats, says it's not a bad idea, not just for the sunshine either, right, Robert?
No, it's a very good idea.
Tell me about the organization that you represent.
I represent Keats, Connolly & Associates. We are a cross-border financial planning firm, and I'm launching a new great book for Canadians to help them choose the cross-border lifestyle, which is spending more time in the U.S. and trying to save a few dollars in taxes at the same time.
And there it is, right on your screen right now. You didn't even know that existed? Well, we're going to tell you what's inside. A Canadian's best tax haven, and I think probably a lot of you are as surprised as I was when I saw that, because I never think about the United States as being a tax haven for anybody, particularly this month.
That's correct. Yeah, after just filling out our tax returns, but we here in the U.S., we take it for granted that our tax rates are high, but for other people looking at the U.S., they can actually be much lower. And so Canada, for most provinces, compared with Arizona or Florida or even California, which is a higher tax state, of course, just coming to the U.S. can be a phenomenal tax savings for them, and help them just live a better lifestyle, a cross-border lifestyle, so that they've worked hard all of their lives to accumulate savings and a lot of kind of the Canadian equivalent of the IRAs in Canada, where they've got a lot of tax-deferred income where they have to pay taxes on in their retirement. If they come to the U.S., they can cut those taxes in less than half, and sometimes even eliminate them altogether. So,
are the taxes in Canada as high as they are because of social benefits?
Normally, yes. Yes. Of course, the Medicare up there is included in the tax base, so people, for most provinces, do not pay anything for their medical care, so it's just included in their tax base.
Well, what kind of responsibility does someone from another country, even though it's just northern Minnesota, regardless of how close Canada is, they can't come down and live and just pay lower taxes. They still have to go back home after a while, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. Like, what the ideal thing is a cross-border lifestyle. Like, most Canadians like to spend the winters down in the Sun Belt, or Hawaii, or Arizona, Florida, that sort of thing. And then they like to go back for the summers. U.S. immigration has certain rules that they just have to follow, and the IRS has certain rules that they have to follow. And it can be relatively complex, and that was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Take Your Money and Drive, because Canadians are getting the wrong advice of how to live that cross-border lifestyle. There's a lot of myths out there that are perpetuated by the IRS being interviewed, or throwing people in jail in the newspapers, and that scares a lot of people. And then some advisors or neighbors or whatever tell Canadians they can, or what they can or they can't do in the U.S. And so there's a lot of myths, and Take Your Money and Drive dispels all of those myths so that people can live the cross-border lifestyle that they've worked hard to create over their lifetimes. And a lot of Canadian advisors actually send Canadians, I call it offshore, to the Cayman Islands, or one of those traditional tax havens. And I found, by doing the proper research and the proper planning, that because of the Canada-U.S. tax treaty, Canadians can actually come to the U.S. and spend more time here and pay a lower rate of tax because of the Canada-U.S. treaty than they can if they even went to one of these islands in the middle of nowhere. And the islands in the middle of nowhere just don't suit their lifestyle, because they want to be able to go back and forth to Canada on a regular basis without any issues with U.S. immigration when they're returning, or without any problems with the IRS for income taxes or estate
And it's a
taxes.
little easier to drive south to Arizona than it is to have to go to an island like the Grand Caymans.
For certain.
How many Canadians do we have here? Usually on a regular basis, long-term Canadians.
Long-term Canadians, there's close to 100,000 that we're aware of that
Wow.
live here in the Valley. In Florida, it's about 3 times that, and then California probably getting pretty close to the same as Arizona, possibly even more, because of the movie industry. There's a lot of Canadians that work in the movie industry, as well as in the Silicon Valley area as well. And so there's a lot of Canadians in the U.S., but visitors to the U.S., Canadian visitors, Canada has a population of about between 30 and 35 million people, which is about the same as California. But 23 million Canadians in the last 12 months have visited the U.S. I mean, that's almost every single Canadian, or 2/3 of the Canadians have visited the U.S. So
and we love them dearly, and we want to be hospitable hosts. But why do we care about their tax breaks? What's in it for us?
What's in it for the U.S. is Canada, not only for tourism, creates a phenomenal amount of jobs for the U.S. because of they're coming down to the U.S. They're buying houses, they're buying cars, they're spending money for entertainment, golf clubs. All of those things are creating a great number of jobs. Like here in Arizona, if you talk to any home builder or any realtor in most of the communities here in Arizona, the Canadians have basically saved their business over the last 3 years because Canada, with the high Canadian dollar, which is about 50% higher than it was, say, 10 years ago against the U.S. dollar, and then real estate being 30 to 50% less, Canadians are getting a great bargain to buy homes in Arizona, Florida, California.
As investment properties?
As investment properties, or properties that they just spend, 3 or 4 months or sometimes longer in the wintertime.
What about the difference, though, in medical benefits?
Medical benefits, what I find doing this for 30 years, and I do discuss it quite in detail in Take Your Money and Drive, is I like to have people that are living a cross-border lifestyle have access to both the Canadian and the U.S. medical system as required. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which side of the fence you're on, most people don't know which type of medical assistance they're going to need in their lifetime, and it usually comes when they need it. It comes fairly quick. So by having access to both the Canadian and the U.S. medical system, I find our clients or the people that are doing the proper kind of planning can kind of have access to two of the best medical systems in the world, as opposed to trying to say which one am I going to use. I like to see access to both because it just gives so much more flexibility at a time in your life when you need it to preserve your lifestyle, which is your health. And
I hear you out there, though. You're saying, yeah, well, listen, that's fine, and we love our Canadian neighbors and friends, but what about us? Where do we go for a tax break? It could be the next book. Where do we get this book, by the way?
This book is available on Amazon.com. It is just coming out. The pre-orders are on Amazon, and it's selling very well so far, and the shipping will probably start sometime over the next 2 weeks.
And we can use Canadian or American dollars to buy them,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. This is our new friend here who's talking to all of us about how all of us can benefit from the tax opportunities that are there specifically for Canadians. This is Pat McMahon. This is the Morning Scramble.